Are you struggling to make Entity Framework Core recognize your enums when using the database-first approach? You're not alone. Today, we're diving into how to instruct scaffold DB context to generate code that uses enums instead of just integers. I totally get it. It can be really frustrating when you expect your code to work a certain way, but it just doesn't. Many developers have faced this issue, and it's a common hurdle when working with EF Core. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked how to make scaffold DB context generate code that uses an enum for a specific field in a table. They provided an example of an enum already defined in their code and the output they received from scaffold DB context. Sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So what's the issue here? When using the database-first approach, scaffold DB context generates classes based on your database schema. However, it doesn't automatically recognize enums, which can lead to some extra work on your part. Let's break down how to fix this. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a quick tip that can save you time and headaches when working with EF Core. To instruct scaffold DB context to use an enum instead of an integer for a specific field, the user needs to create a custom mapping configuration. This is done by implementing the iModelBuilder interface. Next, the user should create a new class that inherits from the DB context class. In this class, they will override the onModelCreating method to specify the mapping for the enum. Inside the onModelCreating method, the user can use the entity method to specify the entity type and then use the property method to define the enum mapping for the specific field. Finally, the user should ensure that the enum is properly defined in their code. This will allow scaffold DB context to recognize it and generate the correct type in the generated classes. Fun fact, did you know that enums in programming can help make your code more readable? Instead of using arbitrary numbers, you can use meaningful names that make your code easier to understand. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. One alternative solution involves creating a property for your enum in the entity class. First, define your enum as usual. Then, in your class, add a property for the enum type. This property will get and set the underlying integer value, allowing you to use the enum while still storing it as an integer in the database. That's it for that answer. Let's take a look at another one. An alternative approach shared by another user involves creating a method to build entity objects from your enum. This method uses generics to define both the enum and the entity type. It retrieves the enum values, converts them to a dictionary, and then populates a list of entity objects with the corresponding integer and string values. Now let's see a response from a different user. An alternative approach shared by another user involves using predefined conversions in Entity Framework Core. They suggest applying this method within the model builder to convert your enum type to an integer. This can be done by specifying the conversion in your DB context configuration. Here's the quick tip I promised. Always document your enum mappings. This will save you time in the future and help other developers understand your code better. And there you have it. You should now be able to make EF Core recognize your enums when using the database-first approach. If you found this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button for more tips, and remember to share your experiences in the comments below.